Hello and welcome to the BrightEyes Podcast. Before we get started with today's conversation, I would like to share with you some exciting information. As you probably already know, BrightEyes is a program that brings students, UCSD students, to the San Francisco Bay Area in order to learn about venture capital and startups via actual conversations like the ones that we've been having on these podcasts. And if you're a UCSD student, I highly recommend you apply. Applications are due the 30th, and so if you could just email your resume to brighteyes@brighteyes-students.org, and that is all that is required for the first round of applications. So go ahead and do that. It's an opportunity you don't want to miss. I was on the trip last year, and it helped me, learn what I wanted in my future career, and also helped me get a very good perspective of that, as well as connected me with many of the mentors that I still talk to today. That being said, today's conversation is with John. John Wong is a software engineer at Coursera, and he's got a lot to say about everything from online education to jump starting your career as a computer scientist and getting into the industry. So he's got a lot of cool things to say, and this was a very, very exciting episode for me to record and to bring to you guys. So without further ado, here's John.
We at BrightEyes recognize that to be successful, we all require someone willing to invest in our potential and vision.
Hello everyone, welcome to the BrightEyes Podcast. This is Daniel Cao. Today with me is John. John, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. So we are recording this right now from the Coursera offices in Mountain View, and it's quite a nice place. Even just like walking around, I was here not too long ago over the summer for a little for lunch, I think, and then got to explore around a little bit. John is. Why don't you introduce yourself? Tell them a little bit about what you do at Coursera and got involved, and a little bit of your backstory.
Sure. So I'm John. I think I've been here for about a year and a half now. But I came here right after I graduated from UCSD, UC San Diego, as a computer science major. When I was sort of, some of the things I do here, I do a lot of the front-end development. So anything you touch and see and feel as you're taking courses, as you're learning, those are the things that I have a hand in making better. I've also done a lot of odd jobs. Being a small company, we have engineers have to do a lot of different things, and so I've been able to help out with the mobile team, getting their video coding working. I've been able to work with infrastructure to help improve the site performance, and generally doing a lot of other things that are not just engineering stuff here.
What number were you here?
So I started here when I think there was about 50 people and about 20 engineers.
Okay.
So we could fit everyone into one room. We could fit everyone at one lunch table.
Wow.
It has changed a lot, and it's actually, but that's good. I think it's good change. We've grown, and we've sort of managed to keep the same sort of the same culture of people, the same motivated people and really passionate people to work with us.
How many people are working here now?
So we're about 170, and I think we have around 70 engineers. So when I joined, so it's been about a year and a half. Tripled since then. So we have a new office here, and we used to be in two separate offices in the same office. Like building. It was kind of weird. You'd have to go see like one of the other teams. You have to exit one office, walk downstairs, and walk into another office.
Where was that office?
That was in Mountain View as well. It was along El Camino.
Okay.
Actually, the first office that LinkedIn was in as well.
Oh.
Which is what we heard a lot. But we very quickly had to do that.
I see. Well, it's crazy to see how fast Coursera is growing, and very props to a very needed technology space in education too. What was it about Coursera that kind of drew you here?
So to sort of explain that, I'll talk a little bit about my own motivations and some of the things that I've done in the past. While I was at San Diego, I was working. I was working since freshman year at a virology lab, and it was very obvious that virology, like biological viruses.
Okay.
They were doing scientific research on viruses, and they were storing this stuff in databases and doing data analysis and things like that. But they're scientists. The things that they build weren't maintainable, they weren't that great. So I spent a lot of time figuring out how do people think? How do people think that are not me and not CS like me? I did a few other jobs while I was at San Diego. One of them was as part of, actually not a job, it was part of a program called TIES, which is called
Global Ties?
Yes, Global TIES. It's a teams and engineering service, and basically they partner a group of engineers and other people with nonprofit organizations to help solve some of their problems. Ours in particular, I actually had two. The first one was we were helping the student-run free clinic down in downtown San Diego to help provide them inventory software for their inventory database software to record the prescriptions that people were getting for all of the people that were using that clinic. And then after that, I led a team for actually 2 years. I was in the program for a really long time. I was working with a nonprofit called MOOCs in Haiti, and we were helping them build an inventory software to help manage supplies between humanitarian groups in disaster zones, in particular the cholera outbreak in Haiti. So those sort of experiences sort of lined me up to, I found sort of what I was really good at, and that was helping other people do things, right? I never really wanted to, I was never like amazing at like computer science things, algorithms, or OS stuff or anything like that, but I was able to use my skills to help apply this technology to these other things, viruses or, disaster relief or, medical software. And so when I was looking for a job, I was looking for, like, where can I have that same sort of impact? Where can I use my skills where it's going to be needed the most and have as much impact as I can with that mindset? And I'd worked at an education startup as well as an internship called Lore in New York. And I really liked the idea of being able to help people learn. That was about the time that Coursera had first started. So there's a lot of press about them, a lot of news, and I saw them and was like, oh, this is a cool idea, taking classes online. I didn't know if I'd never taken a class online or thought anything about that. But when I was looking for a job, this was an opportunity for me to use my skills for people who may or may not know how to use technology to help, advance their teaching or their learning. So it seemed, I interviewed here, and it seemed just great. Everything just fit
culturally.
Yeah.
There's so many things I want to get into there, but I want to hear a little bit about kind of what the culture is like here.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you kind of talk a little bit about that?
Right. So I would say it's really quirky. We have just people of so many different backgrounds. So what's nice is that half the company is non-technical. So right off the bat, you have half the people who have just a completely different background than you or me, and we have people that used to work in the UN. We have people that have done Teach for America. People who have had a wide range of experiences across the board in marketing, business, all these sorts of things, and they come from all over the place, and they're very well versed in sort of this global perspective, or I would say is a perspective that is very, very open-mindedness to the global culture. So you'll find that out of 170 people here, probably about 30, 40 of them speak Chinese, and it's great. And it's not just the Chinese people. There's a lot of people here where you just not that you should assume this, but it's just I didn't expect that this person would know 8 languages or 9 languages or something. And so that was just crazy. So and they all do a lot of different things. There's a lot of bikers, athletes. There's a lot of really smart people that like to play board games and just all sorts of different things that I wouldn't expect when you first see anything. Like when you start working there, you start finding out about these things. So it's really great that they're so that they have all these different interests and different skill sets. But on top of that, everyone is passionate about the mission that we're trying to achieve here. What we're trying to do is we're trying to provide a universal access to the world's best education, and everyone stands behind it. Everyone is here for that reason, no matter what their backgrounds are. And that just means that you sort of, when you talk to people and you're discussing with them, everyone's on the same playing field. Everyone knows why they're here, and we've gotten that out of the way, and now we can address the actual problems that are being faced.
Education is very a field I'm very passionate about. So I do want to go into that a little bit, but just to out of my personal curiosity, I'm just kind of curious what I'm not too familiar with the whole backstory of how Coursera got started and how Andrew, right?
Yeah.
How he started it. Well, number one, I kind of want to get a little bit about that, and two, what is he like as a person? What is his background?
Sure. So the sort of story behind Coursera was that Andrew and Daphne, they had a lot of courses that they were teaching at Stanford. And these are really good courses. People that went there, they know that these are the leading minds in the space, and these are really great courses. And the sort of the way that I have heard it a lot is that Andrew really wanted to not have to keep lecturing over and over again, because it's the same thing over and over again. So it didn't really make sense to have to keep doing it when you can now spend all that time that you would rather would otherwise be lecturing. Now you can spend that time doing one-on-one mentorship. You can help people out with more personal problems instead of having to repeat this stuff over and over again. So they put all these courses online with the help of 3, I believe, true freshmen at Stanford. So they're 2 of them still working, which is crazy. So they built this platform to help deliver these courses, and people started signing up. So they thought that there'd be like 10 or 20,000 people to take machine learning from Andrew, and I think the first session was like 100,000 people. So it was just like an insane amount of people, and I think that number's wrong. But it was just thinking about it, the time it would take for Andrew to personally teach 40,000 people. He did the math. It was something like 240 years or something of active session after session teaching. That's obviously not possible, and he can do that now in 3 months. And that was something that just made sense for a lot of professors. So they, after doing the Daphne's course, Andrew's course, and there was one other course on databases, they started branching out to some other Stanford courses and started trying to find university partners, other partners throughout the world that wanted to be a part of this movement to make education accessible. And then so Andrew's obviously very passionate about this. He has he's the leading resource on AI, at least at the introductory level. So now he has this resource out for everyone. Even though he's not here day to day anymore. Okay. But when he was here and I got a chance to work with him, he's very he knew exactly the target that he was shooting at. So he had the goal in mind. It was just about how to get there. That was the interesting part. So I think that was probably my take from the interaction.
I see. Where is he day to day now?
So right now he's the chief scientist at Baidu. He's still a professor at Stanford as well. So he's still teaching his machine learning classes at Stanford, and he's also pursuing his own. And this is the thing that we have here at the company. There's passion, motivation. His passion and motivation was to teach, and to teach, and to use and to advance the field of machine learning, which he's really good at. And not that he wouldn't be able to do that as part of Coursera. It was just this opportunity to make more sense for him I do, and in the meantime, him and Daphne both have constructed just a world-class team of people here to take on this problem. So he saw that it was more than comfortable.
That's very interesting. Very, very interesting. So then, coming back to a little bit about the whole education, it seems like what Coursera has created is this ability to, take just a really good professor's lessons, lectures, and scale that in a way that would never have been able to be accomplished through like traditional classroom setting, right? As you said, the whole 240 years thing. What are some of the other things that kind of Coursera's mission is about, like the problems that Coursera is addressing, things that problems that Coursera is trying to solve, and like as a corollary, like where do you see the company being in like 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, so I think the main things that we're addressing first is accessibility. That meaning just like if you live anywhere on this planet, can you get the education that you deserve, right? So there's a lot of people around the world that the people that we know here all have that opportunity. They can go to college, they can go to these places to learn things. The thing is that not everyone lives like we do. Right. So there's a lot of people all over the country, even here in the country, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, that don't have access to world-class education. And it seems strange to sort of keep them out of it because either they don't live in this country or any of the countries, or they're not able to pay enough for universities and things like that. And for a large percentage of the people that we're trying to address or try to serve are the people that already have jobs, have families. They don't have the time or the bandwidth to be able to go to these classes, to be able to take these classes at a physical university when there's no real, not a huge need for them to be physically co-located with their other students and stuff like that. So this is a great opportunity for everyone to be able to advance their career using these courses that we're providing them. And I think another big thing that we're also shooting at is changing up the format of the course. So after 4 years of UCSD, I had a very strong belief that there was a better way to learn. There had to be a better way than sitting in a lecture hall, potentially falling asleep, missing things. Like, there's a lot of times where you're like, I wish I could just rewind this, right? And so, so that works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for a lot of other people as well. And so, being able to have this all this content on the Coursera platform allows for rewatchability. You can watch it faster if you need to. You can skim around, but it also is a look at what if the courses that you took weren't based on a schedule that the university set up. Right. So if you're learning a really hard a topic, it doesn't make sense to learn that in 10 weeks. Like, not everyone can learn this in 10 weeks, especially with all the other things that you have going on during college. But you still need to learn this, or you still want to learn this. You have to have a path forward. And so what we've been doing is taking, and this is something new that we've been working on, is taking a course and saying, instead of having it be structured by the university timeline, what if you could take this course at your own pace? You could take it as fast or as slow as you wanted, and you would still get the same sort of social interactions that you do with our current courses, but like I said, it's more flexible, it's more open. And I think that's an incredible opportunity for a lot of people, because now they don't need to be constrained to, do I have 10 weeks? That's a huge investment. But they might have 20 minutes a day. Yeah. Right. And so that's what we're shooting for is, instead of having, if one side of the spectrum is here at a university schedule and this is like your own schedule, we want to also provide you something in the middle, where that something in the middle is a personalized approach to learning. So that you can still make sure that you're hitting your goals, while still having the flexibility of not having to be worried that you're going to run out of time, that you're going to miss a deadline. So moving forward, I think that's going to be a great opportunity for people around the world to be able to learn the things at their own pace, and not have to worry about time, because it just seems like it seems like a very arbitrary on learning things. And I think what we'll get to is this one's sort of like a blue sky vision of what Coursera gets to, but is a personalized learning solution for everyone. People can learn more effectively on the internet, because there's such a large amount of interactivity that is different than the lecture hall, and it's definitely more personalized.
Right. So, but at the same time, it doesn't seem like what Coursera is shooting for is to replace, the like college education experience, right? It seems like it's for bringing up greater accessibility, as you said, and like how do you see like what Coursera is doing, playing in with like collaborating or working in tandem with what higher education is doing?
Right. So there's a couple of good collaborations that already exist. One of them is the flipped classroom. Right. So like I mentioned before, now that a professor doesn't need to spend half their schedule lecturing, and now they can spend it.
You want to explain the flipped
classroom
for those who don't understand?
So the flipped classroom is basically, instead of having students go to the lectures to hear the lecture from the professor themselves, they actually go home and watch all the courses and all the they watch all the videos and the lectures at home, and they end up doing a lot more group work and project work in the class. So they can sort of see this lecture on their own schedule and be able to do the more interactive pieces with the people that at the classroom, because you don't really need to watch a lecture with everybody else. You're not interacting with anybody else. So now this provides an opportunity for professors to provide higher touch interactions with their students, and helps a lot with the more applied skills. Instead of having to do the lectures in this classroom when you don't really need to interact with everyone, and then going home and then struggling with projects, struggling with homework, you flip it around and watch the lectures in your own comfort of your own dorm room or whatever, and get a chance to do the interactive stuff when there's someone there to help you. That way you don't have to struggle with it. It's a little weird because it is something that is rather new, but there's a lot of courses that definitely benefit from that approach.
So are there any like specific success stories that stand out to either you personally or maybe ones that the whole company shares a lot that are just very like this is like what we've been building?
Yeah, so what we do is that every Friday during our all hands meeting, we have someone bring in a success story or a learner story about someone who has used Coursera and has found more opportunities than they otherwise would have. We have, in particular, I think the most outstanding story that we have is, I believe his name's Daniel. I want to say Bergman. It's something.
Okay.
Daniel, and he has severe autism. So it's incredibly hard for him to learn in a more traditional environment. But because now he can take Coursera classes at the comfort of his own home with help nearby to parse and interpret the things that are happening, he's able to take a lot of courses. And one of the big, the one that he took was the Modern Poetry course, which was taught by Al Fillories. I believe it's the University of Pennsylvania. And so this was a great story because it's hard to have education. The education model of going to school just doesn't work for every single person. So he was really successful. He actually was part of one of the newest reruns of the course as he visited the course or the people that were giving the course and managed to everything like that. He's actually a student at the University of Pennsylvania. Which is great, and so now, and he's able to now be part of that. He takes he's close with Al Fillories, and that's something that is just that would never be available if he hadn't taken this course while he was younger at home. So that's our biggest story. But if you walk throughout the office, you can see we don't have any here, but on the walls, every conference room that we have a portrait of a student around the world that has benefited from Coursera, and each of these students has, they're from all over the place and they're doing all sorts of different things, but they each have their own, they've each used the things that we provide here at Coursera to better their lives and the lives of people.
That's incredible. Is there a place online that shares those, or is that?
I believe that the Coursera blog does we do put our learner stories up there.
Okay.
And there's just a great collection of just really motivating stories, and when we say them in our meeting, in our all hands meeting, that's just that's why we're here is to help these people that we would never otherwise know or get to meet.
Very cool. I'll definitely put a link to that in the show notes. So if you click just below, there'll be a little box box with the show notes and references, and you can check them out on if you're listening by podcast in your car or whatever. You can check that out at brighteyes-students.org. So that leads me to the next thing, which personally I'm also very curious about, is I think the elephant in the room here, or that gets brought up a lot, is this whole idea that, MOOCs, right, massive online open courses, that the completion rate for the MOOCs is something like 10%. Mm-hmm. Something extremely low, something very it just kind of makes you wonder, think about I was just wondering what your thoughts on that.
Right. So I'll sort of skirt the question and say that the statistics that we use to determine completion rate are not probably that accurate. So the entry point, the top of the funnel for the completion rates that we report are you clicking on a button that says, I want to take this class. But that class doesn't start, so you actually haven't seen it. So we actually see that from the point that you enroll into that course, and by the time the course starts, about 50% of people don't actually show up. Okay. So that skews the data a ton. Now, even taking that into account, you cut off the top of that 50% of the people that did click on the button. It's still a lower amount of people that actually complete the course. But then if you think about it, let's sort of approach this as if they have some problem, I want to learn something, or I want to be better at something, or I want to advance my career, gain new skills, and Coursera becomes the solution, it might not be the case that an entire course corresponds with an achievement of those goals. So if you think about a course that you've taken in university, and this happened to me too, I did this a lot, is that I probably slept through half the lectures, right? And I probably learned one or two things. And the thing is that I learned really important things, those one or two things, but there's a lot of stuff I learned that I probably didn't need to learn at that time. So even though I completed the course, was it completely successful? Maybe, right? And so now bringing that to this online course, if you look at a course as a set of things to learn, you don't always need to learn all of them. So you could learn maybe 5 out of the 6 things. For this particular statistic that says that, think about it like this. Even if it was 95%, they did 95% of the things there. All the quizzes, all the projects, all the videos, did a ton of interactions on the forums, and they just didn't finish the last quiz. That wouldn't count as completion. But they still learned a shit ton of stuff, and they still, were interacting, and they still learned a lot of things. That's not taken into account in the metric, right? So what we've been doing is that we're trying to find what is a proxy for learning. Now, there's the obvious ones, assessments, quizzes, or projects and things like that. But we also want to push it further and see, are there ways that you can prove that you've learned something besides just filling out a multiple choice quiz? Right? Can you teach somebody else this thing? So we're exploring a lot of these things and seeing how the medium of the internet helps us do that in a way that physical interactions don't. But that's sort of the big thing. So the completion metrics that I look at when I'm trying to determine the success of something that I do, an experiment that I'm running, my completion metrics are: did someone learn something based on? So say if what we do is that for our new courses, we have the professors designate it's about a half hour's worth of content to learn one objective. That's what I optimize for, is learning separate things. Now, the integration of all of those is still important, but I think it misleads people based on these huge metrics. And I think if you took into account everyone that wanted to enroll into a college course, whether or not they were in that college, you would find that the completion rate is just the same. It's just a matter about where you have that setting point. So, I don't think it's an entirely true metric to determine the worthiness or the success of these courses.
I had a hunch it was something like that, but I'm glad you were able to dispel that. I think I really appreciate what you said about the whole really the internet is much more than simply there's so much more power than simply putting a lecture on, right? And I think moving forward into the whole future of education, future of learning, especially when it comes to ed tech. There's a lot of ed tech startups nowadays. A lot of people trying to get into education. I have my thoughts there because I helped start a charter school this summer, and there's different things that you have to, a lot of hoops you have to jump through in order to get like an ed tech actually into schools. But that's a discussion for a different day. And so what I was saying about the kind of whole internet thing, it's very cool to see that how we can actually move forward, innovate, and actually do something beyond just taking a classroom experience and putting it online. Like, what can you do with the social features? What can you do with like the different things that the internet is so good at? Connecting people, making things just very quick, very location dependent, things like that. What are some of the things that I guess maybe in your experience here at Coursera that you noticed about the ways that people learn when it comes to just using the internet, like different things, maybe insights that work online that would never work in the classroom, things like that.
Okay, I'll sort of give this from the perspective of an audience that we actually haven't talked about yet, is actually teachers.
Okay.
So now, Coursera is a great platform to learn on because of a lot of the accessibility that we provided. But it's also a great platform for teachers to teach on and learn from what they're teaching. And I'll sort of explain this. It goes along with the internet as a medium. But because we have so many students taking these courses and we're gathering all the data that they're on the quizzes that they're taking, the videos that they're watching, now teachers can get fine-grained data about the actual interaction with the content of their course. In a regular university classroom, or any classroom really, they don't know how many people are actually paying attention. They don't know whether or not the people that understood what was going on, and they don't know whether or not they messed up, or the teacher messed up. We have the power, and we already have this out. We have an entire team that's dedicated to building dashboards for professors, where they can take a look at a quiz question and they can see, based on the answers of all these students, they can see they can see the fine-grained topics that people don't understand. They can also see where they do understand them. In a regular classroom of 20 people, if 2 people get question B wrong, that's fine. Maybe they just slipped up, they forgot something. But out of 20,000 people, that same percentage of people, like 10% of the same, 10 or 20% of people get this question wrong, you might be teaching it wrong. Right. And that's a huge discovery that teachers may not otherwise get to see. Another thing that sort of feeds off our social products is that we have a new product called Questions and Answers. So when students are watching a video, they can ask a question and they can get some answers on a video by video basis. And this is, it feels a little strange, but what we've been doing is that now we start ranking the most popular questions to the top. So now you're watching this video about Pythagoras' theorem. You see a question about who the hell is Pythagoras, and someone answers it. They talk about it, and that's great. And the thing is that normally for a regular student, they'd be like, okay, this is some more interesting content that I can now consume, and this is aside from the teacher stuff. But now from the teacher standpoint, it's an opportunity to see what are the things that I didn't cover, what are the things I did need to cover, because now you have a set of questions that they're sitting at the top. Maybe I should address this. Maybe I should improve my content, or maybe I should help them out and show them the things that they need to understand. And that's something that most teachers don't really think about when they're taking questions from their class. Now that they can see it, now that people can rank it up and discuss it, it can become part of the teaching experience. There was actually a student who went ahead and would make video answers for some of the questions or some of the concepts, explaining some of the concepts for a particular class, and they were so good that the teacher said, "Why do I need to record it?" He or she just pointed to the student's answers and said, "This is exactly how it should be presented." Right? And that's an incredible opportunity that you just wouldn't find very commonly elsewhere.
I love hearing all the stuff. It's just really exciting to see where learning and education is going in the next 10, 20 years. Before we get into, I want to jump a little bit more into kind of your background, your thoughts on doing different things, and as pertains to your college experience and stuff. Before we get there, are there any Coursera classes that you would recommend, just as a general principle?
There's actually a really good course from UCSD called Learning How to Learn. It's very short; it's 4 weeks, but it's you get to learn how to learn, which is really important. It's meta learning, but it's one of our more successful classes. It's short and it's from UCSD, so it's
top though?
I'm not sure who it's top.
Okay, I'll put a link to that as well.
Yeah, but that's learning how to learn is just something that's so useful no matter what field you're in, no matter what you're doing. Everyone should be learning for the rest of their lives, and that's just huge.
Great. That's a perfect segue to what's the next thing? What's something that you've been learning recently?
So one of the big things that I've learned here at Coursera is that engineering is not just about technical work. Okay. It's not just doing code or figuring out how to make things more efficient. What I've learned from working here is that there's a lot of non-technical stuff that goes into it as well. There's a lot of things that help propel the sort of capabilities of your company that don't just involve code. So this might be improving how processes work. This might mean improving how interactions between engineers work. This might be improving how you interact with the design team or the product team. And these are big things that I didn't really get a chance to experience or get a chance to be a part of much while I was in school, because there was very much like, you're an engineer, you're in a class with other engineers. But when you get here, you realize half the people I deal with aren't engineers. They're designers, they're marketers, they're partnership managers. So that was a big thing that I learned, and it's something that I've actually taken advantage of, because now I can learn a lot about things that I don't know, things that aren't just code.
So if you were to do, say, do your college over again, would you try to focus on some of the more technical things, or non-technical things?
Yeah, I think that if I had the opportunity to, I would. I think that a breadth of knowledge is more important than depth with regards to a lot of the technologies, because it ends up being that you get to a company, and even if you have learned like every ins and out of C++, you get to a company that don't use C++, you're not that useful. But if you know how to learn new languages, then it's trivial for you to pick up something like Python or Ruby or JavaScript or something like that and still be effective. In the end, you're always going to be working with other people, and so if you can learn the skills that you need to be able to communicate effectively, to work well with others, and to make sure that you can do things well, then interact with other people well, then that is a skill that can be translated to literally any opportunity that's out there. It doesn't matter what space you're in. The technical stuff will follow. You can Google a lot of that stuff, right. But you can't Google how to. Yeah, you can't Google how do you work better with design, right? That's not a clear question or an answer. So that's something that I think anybody should make sure that they have as much experience in as possible.
So then, as a more specific version, then I guess to that question, what are some things that you would recommend, say, a freshman in college, say, starting computer science, trying to get an internship, no idea what he or she wants to do.
Yeah.
What are some general pointers? You can maybe UCSD specific, since this is like a UCSD audience.
Yeah.
What are some things that you
recommend? I would recommend working. I mean, just do something do something that you can either be passionate about or that you can have some guidance doing. For me, that was working at the virology lab. I was learning from a scientist about how a lot of this code stuff, and because he didn't have all the answers, I had to also figure it out myself. So having a project that's suitably hard, that you have to work at it to do better at it, is good. You don't want anything to become too easy. You want to make sure that you're continually learning from things. I think that was a great opportunity. I also think that if you sort of focus on more of the some of the more cross-disciplinary courses or project teams that are available at UCSD, Global Ties is a huge. I think was tied directly to how I've become an engineer today. That's an incredible opportunity to learn from people of all different ages and skill levels and different disciplines as well, design and other things like that too. So I think that was a great opportunity. I think everyone should take all 3 quarters that you get credit for. I think that if you can take a leadership position on any of those teams, the way that we ran our team was like a startup. We were working, we were doing heads down a lot of work, but it was also like interacting with our client, interacting with the people that provide us, tools and stuff like that. And we ran it as if, we had money. Because, for the team for the company for the nonprofit that we're working for, that was like, they needed it. So we needed to provide them a solution. So that was a great thing. And that's, and I think that sort of leads into like longer term projects, right? It's hard to really believe in or really get motivated by a 10-week project. It sort of leads you to start the hackathon sort of feeling is, just get it done, but you can't maintain it, it can't scale. So having a longer term project that lasts more than just a quarter or a semester or something like that is incredibly valuable, because now you can learn how code is maintained, how code gets created, and how do you create processes that help maintain the quality of the things that you produce. And that's something that college never, the courses that I took never really prepared me for. But when you get into the industry, all the code, you don't end up generating all that much code brand new. Most of it is taking the things that people have built before you and constructing them in different ways or things like that. And that's a hard skill to learn unless you're doing it all the time.
Any specific classes?
So there was a software engineering class that I thought was really great. I think it is 120.
Okay.
Maybe not
120 is 120 is operating systems.
Okay. It's one of the 100 something or others. It might be 170. And I don't remember the number, but the software engineering course was great. It was taught. The one that I took was taught by Dr. Kruger, who he himself had taken a sabbatical to work on a startup, during school, and that was a huge thing. Is learning from people who are in industry. So we were learning how to build it was a Rails app with MongoDB, but we actually spent the entire quarter not doing anything that he actually was showing us using the languages that he showed us. We actually built it with our own languages, and we were using JavaScript and Python. We're actually building the software for the nonprofit organization. But because we're in that class, we were learning a lot about how to organize things, how do things work, how do you make sure that this scales. That was a great opportunity. Actually, I believe he taught it from an adapted version of one of our first software engineering courses on Coursera, and so that was actually that might have actually been my first exposure to it. But I think that was a great opportunity. I think there's a few other professors that really. And so UCSD is a research university, so there's a lot of focus on the more academic, the more research-based things. And so you need to kind of go out of your way to find more industry-related things like software engineering. But when you do, it's a great complement to the other things that you have to learn mandatory for a degree. And I think pursuit of that is great.
Was the class? There was a class that's cross-listed between computer science. Yes, I didn't know any.
Yes, I think it was the HCI.
Did you ever take that one?
I didn't. Was that COGS 120?
COGS 120, yeah. CSC 170 or something.
Yeah, so that I had heard about it, but I didn't know that the COGS side. Actually, this is the best advice: is that if you want to do more front-end things, if you want to do a lot more human-computer interaction, actually go to the COGS side department. I started in the art department because I was thinking more of design. So I was like, design is art, blah, blah, blah. So I actually took a few courses in art before I realized that I was in the wrong department. And I didn't even realize that there was a COGS sci department. That was a huge piece where they were doing all the front end work. They were doing a lot of the human computer interaction work. So I got a chance before I left to take a few of those courses, but I didn't get to the more meatier CS ones that I wish I could have taken. But I did try and jump in on some of their seminars, some of the HCI talks that both Melody was hosting and some of the other people that I knew that were in the HCI. So that's one thing. It's like if you want to start and you want to do front end things, make sure that you either take a double major or minor in CS in Cog Sci instead of art like I did.
So you do like front end stuff on a day-to-day basis? Like,
yeah.
What is that actually?
So a lot of it is JavaScript, CSS, HTML. We use different languages that compile down to it. Jade compiles down to HTML. Stylus compiles down to CSS. But it's really what I've been doing is making a lot of our more popular pages more responsive, more useful. So now when you're on a phone, it scales down correctly. It's not like Coursera has been notoriously bad to use on mobile, and especially with we can't support everything on the mobile app. We want to be able to provide some experience in the web version for the people who have just a phone or something around the world. So it's really thinking. A lot of it is empathy. It's figuring out what a user that is not me feel or think when they get to Coursera, and how can they get to what they need as quickly as possible, using whatever means they have. Whatever means that they have. So whether it's a cell phone or an iPhone or a tablet or a computer or something like that, we want to make sure that they have an experience, and that experience is helping them achieve their goals. And so we've been doing a lot of sort of front end restructuring to help with sort of performance things, but a lot of it is to make sure that it's easier to access Coursera from China. Or making it more accessible to people who only use keyboards, or people that have to use screen readers, things like that. With the newer products that we're building, it's also figuring out what options or lack of options do we want to provide to students and learners to make sure that they're getting the most out of the products that we build, and not getting too mired down in there's so many options and so many things. We want to make it as easy as possible.
So I'm going to shift gears a little here, just kind of wrap up with a couple rapid fire questions. So these are quick questions, and you can take as long or as short as you want to answer them. First question I ask at all of my interviewees, because personally I am a very voracious reader, and so I'll read 2 to 3 books a week. Learning is one of the things that drive me. Are there any books that you would recommend? Any of the most significant and impactful books to you?
There's a book from John Maeda, and it's called I want to say it's called Designing Simplicity. It's some combination of those two words. What was incredible about the book was that he designed the book to be consumed. So it wasn't he's not just talking about design, he also practices it by he makes the chapters short enough to ride on a subway train. He actually says that in the book, and it happened to be that I was in New York and I was taking the subway every day. Every subway ride I could finish one chapter. And so I got through the book really quickly, but then I just realized wow, I was just part of this experience, and that was an incredible experience.
That reminds me, actually, I think there's something that you would probably be very interested in. I'll send you an email, but there's my friend designed a completely redesigned organic chemistry textbook from the ground up to be completely he completely rethought the graphics, the whole spacing, everything, the whole flow of how people learn, and diagrams and everything. And it's just a really, really cool textbook.
Okay.
I'll share the link. But he's raising a Kickstarter, and he's doing super well. He already passed his goal. And hopefully, if the Kickstarter is still running by the time I put this up, then you can take a look. But otherwise, I'll definitely send it. It's really cool. What do you do in your free time? What do you like to do?
I play video games, so I've been playing Destiny lately. I had a brief brush with World of Warcraft that I don't want to talk about. And actually just finished The Last of Us, which was an incredible story game.
What are your morning routines like?
I'll get up, I'll sit in bed and check Twitter and Reddit and maybe do a little reading and roll into work at like 10 or 11 or something. Usually back to work. And then I'll grab a bite.
Okay. And then how long are you usually in the office?
So if I get in around 10 or 11, I usually wait till dinner. They give us free lunch and dinner, so it's just a huge decision point that I don't have to deal with. So dinner, right after dinner, I usually evaluate whether or not I can get some work done. If I can, I'll do some work. If not, I'll be home by 8 or 9, depending on the day.
Cool. So I think I will have my last and final question is where can people find out more about you? It's on the website.
Interesting. So I'll give you a link to my website. It is, I believe it says that I am a 4th-year undergraduate. So I don't think it's quite up to date, but I have a Twitter and GitHub, and they all have the same tag. So I'll give that to you.
Cool. Those will be in the show notes. Cool. So that being said, I want to be cognizant of your time. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We at BrightEyes recognize that to be successful, we all require someone willing to invest in our potential and vision.